In the past few weeks, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party have been getting a lot of heat from the media about their supposedly stagnating poll numbers. And this comes on the forefront of Mark Carney and his potential win for the Liberal Party leadership race. And in such a case, they're suggesting in the media that people see Pierre Poilievre not as well suited to take on the economic challenges the Trump tariffs, sorry, that the Trump tariffs bring to the table in terms of the Canadian economy, and they see that Mark Carney is somehow better because he has a expansive experience in the financial sector, from running the Bank of Canada in 2008 to the Bank of England, and what else you can say, from working in the financial industry for many years. So they're suggesting that Canadians might have shifting views on Pierre Poilievre now because of that. Not to mention, he also lost his biggest punching bag, Justin Trudeau, and as a result, polls are now narrowing, and the conservative messaging is needing of a little bit of a rebranding. So, just a couple days ago, or a week or so now, Pierre Poilievre had his Canada First rally, which was a completely new rebranding of the conservative message and conservative, which campaign position, and that shifted away from the carbon tax, axe the tax, and all those kind of messagings we saw when Justin Trudeau was in the main spotlight for the Conservatives, and now shifts to kind of a protectionist, protect Canada, secure Canada, Canada first messaging, which is interesting to say the least. But is it going to be strong enough to take on Mark Carney and what people perceive to be his stronger position in terms of policy making? It's yet to be seen. So I just was reading this article here by the Canadian Politics and Public Policy Institute, and they're looking into what the main concerns are for the Canadian populace in terms of the next election. And it rightfully points out that Pierre Poilievre was talking about the carbon tax as a main pointer. But now that the Liberals have backed up on the carbon tax, despite Mark Carney and Chrystia Freeland being some of the biggest proponents for it, they are saying now they're going to cut it themselves, which I see as a bit of hypocrisy there, and of course manipulative, considering those are the two people who were the biggest advocates for it. So would I trust their word on it now? I don't think so, but that's for up to the Canadian populace and voters to decide, of course. But in my opinion, when you do something like that, bring in a carbon tax that harms consumers and businesses alike, and you are now saying that, hey, I bit your hand, but now I'm gonna, put a band-aid over it and let it heal. It doesn't seem very reasonable for me to trust that person anymore. As they say, a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? That's what I see Mark Carney as. He's of course going to say something that will get him into office, that's going to get him public support, just like Justin Trudeau did in his first run for prime minister back in 2015. He said a lot of things like he's going to protect Canadian gun rights, he's going to make sure to work for the middle class, axe taxes, and really work to bring Canada's economy into a position that works for all and whatnot. And what did we get instead was a very left-wing, socially left-wing, and economically left-wing prime minister, the likes of that we've never seen in this country before. I don't know if Trudeau went through some sort of manic phase that his policies and his politics completely changed from what he suggested he was going to do in 2015. But it's a very, very stark reminder that what politicians say when they're trying to get elected is not what they do when they do get elected. So that's something to keep in mind for any of the leaders to come and you consider for the next election or consider voting for the next election. However, I would have to say that's even more prudent when you're considering the Liberals, because the Liberals have a proven track record of saying things that just appease voters for a time period, but then going off on their own way, where they just go do their own thing according to their own agenda and don't have any accountability to the Canadian populace. The last 10 years should have been an example of that the Liberals don't want to listen to you. They want to stay in power, and they'll get behind their leader no matter what the leader does. So back to the article here. The article saying now that the Conservatives needed to change their messaging. And on top of that, with the Donald Trump threat, it had taken a hit that was very unexpected for the Conservatives, which is truthfully so because, of course, many Canadians, layman Canadians, will associate Donald Trump, the right wing in the United States, with Pierre Poilievre here. And though Pierre Poilievre has a similar style to that kind of, populist politics, he isn't a Trump. And we have to recognize that. But what the media doesn't want you to see is that he isn't Trump, but rather they want to make you think that he is indeed a Trump, like a Trump Timu version. And though he does say some things that are maybe just as ambiguous as the Liberals would say in their own politics, like he wants to cancel the woke culture and stop all that stuff. Like, okay, that's great, but what does that even mean? Is that a policy or is that something substantive? I don't know, but that's something the Conservatives have to consider, that Canadians are now looking for solid policy, so it's best to stick to solid policy like they have been doing in terms of asking for the government to work on fixing the business environment in this country, as well as working on immigration and the housing situation. That's what the Conservatives need to remember, is that Canadians are going through economic troubles right now, and they need to focus on the fact that Canadians want solutions to those problems, not just buzzwords or, social politics or, hitting back at each other over identity politics and, left versus right. It doesn't make any sense to do that right now. It's not smart at all, and Pierre Poilievre has to recognize that. So can't be coming out here and saying that, hey, we're going to take on the woke left and things like that. It's too divisive and it's too high stakes right now when you have a sort of powerhouse like Mark Carney coming in, who is the exact very, very different from Justin Trudeau in the eyes of the Canadian population, as he has a very strong policy background. So the article continues on about, things that like the Conservatives are losing on their polling front, and they're changing their messaging now. And what are the issues for Canadians? It also looks into that. And it's starting to suggest now that things are now shifting to the election question is now shifting away from just domestic politics, but also towards how are we going to take on the United States and Trump's threats. That is what the politics and the political question of the federal election is becoming. So to continue on, Mark Carney. So in the article, it goes into a little bit of the rhetoric that Pierre Poilievre used about Mr. Carney, and they want Carney to look as if he is already someone on the inside of the Liberal Party. And I'd have to suggest that yes, he is indeed somebody who is an insider. He is not somebody coming from outside. He has had a massive influence on the policy decisions that Justin Trudeau has made over the last 5 to 10 years, including the carbon tax, capital gains tax, and many other positions that Justin Trudeau has taken. So to put in Carney instead of Trudeau, I don't think there's a big difference in between the two, because they are both coming from the same crop, the same thought, and many of the people they have around them are the same as Justin Trudeau had around him. And when we look back at the Justin Trudeau era, we cannot just say it's all Mr. Trudeau's fault, though he was the mastermind. It's the people around him who were able to allow such behaviors from him, and those being his ministers, including Dominic LeBlanc, Chrystia Freeland, Anita Anand, Mark Miller, and the likes of those people. They stood by him, they enabled him, and they made the issues that we are facing now ever so prominent by supporting Justin Trudeau for as long as they did. They were just as complacent, and if they're supporting Carney now and they want to get their job secured under Mr. Carney and come back into power like that, I'm going to say that's a very bad thing for Canadians. Now, moving ahead here, it goes over some of the policy positions that Pierre is now taking after the kind of rebranding they had. And it's focusing, they're saying that Mr. Pierre Poilievre is focusing on Canada's will and want to succeed as a nation on its own, a strong Canada First policy. Kind of like America First for, Trump, which is good in a sense, but there has to be action and planning behind the words. We have seen, this kind of buzzword politics coming from both right and left for so long now. People just want answers. People are fed up with the ways, things have been going, and they want to know what will be done, not just that you're going to do things or you're going to take on these things. No, you're going to need to bring a plan in. And that's what the Conservatives, if they want to win the next election and win by a substantial amount and get a big, massive mandate, they're going to have to make the Canadian population feel secure that we're going to give these people our vote, and they will do so, and they will hold it responsibly and not become partisan, not become divisionists, and rather focus on what needs to be done for Canada. Enough with the politics in terms of, images and drama. It's time to get down to action. It's time to get solid. It's no more of this wishy-washy buzzword politics we see so much from both sides. It's time to get serious. It's time to put Canada first, and it's time to move forward as a nation in a way that we act smart, not just emotionally. Much of our issues in Canada come from the ideas that we are just a chill, laid-back people, empathetic to what happens in the political scene. We need to take that out of our mindsets. We need to root that out. It's destroying us, and we need to take things seriously now. So, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and please comment your opinions down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.